How's it going, retro people? My name is Brad, this is Retro Style Spotlight, and this is your news, notes, history, and retro games to play for the week of May 9th, 2017. In ROM hacking and translation news, this isn't really a ROM hack, but rather a homebrew game that I think can fit well in this segment. The Fall of Prometheus is a mythical action puzzler game that is coming to the MSX. Mystery Labs, a fairly new development team, has released screenshots and details for their upcoming action puzzler game, and it looks pretty damn good. The game will have over 30 screens divided up into 3 worlds, each based on a different theme. Currently, the game is an early work in progress, but is progressing nonetheless. In the game, you'll fight enemies such as skulls, cyclops, tortured souls, gargoyles, and many more foes stemming from mythical traditions, as you battle to capture Prometheus, who, after having brought the concept of fire to humanity, is prosecuted by the wrath of Olympus. Check it out in the links below, especially if you like old new games, especially on the MSX. Time for some spectacular emulation news. This week, I want to talk about the Libretro Patreon page. For those that don't know, Libretro is the back-end stuff to the RetroArch and Laka front ends, and together they make a badass emulator. Some of you may know from when I did the tutorials, RetroArch is probably my favorite emulator. I think that they do a lot of really cool things, trying to standardize a scene that doesn't have any standardization. Well, they've been dropping bombshells on their campaign page because of the support people are giving them, and recently they've announced 3 new cores coming to RetroArch. Melon DS is a new DS emulator on the block. I talked about it a few weeks ago, and I was excited for the prospect of a new DS emulator, but Medusa currently has me more excited. Neither are in great shape to be remotely playable yet either, but new prospects are good, and being included in RetroArch is even better for me. The next core is Sameboy. This is a very accurate Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulator. While Gambate is still my go-to currently, as it's just as, if not more accurate and well established, Sameboy is looking to shake things up a bit. More competition is a good thing, and I can respect someone wanting to go out on a limb like this, in an already crowded area. The last core, and my most anticipated core, is the Open Lara game engine. Open source engines are becoming more and more common for older games. OpenMW is my go-to example for what it can do to games like Morrowind, but this is just as exciting. The Tomb Raider games are known for being released on PS1, but they also came out on PC. They're much better on the PC, a nightmare to run, but still have a dedicated fan base behind them, and you can even buy them now on GOG. This engine, that will be in core form, will help those fans be able to play the old Tomb Raider game on a modern machine with much more modern graphical and audio standards. This could even apply to those first generation of Tomb Raider games and allow for playing the entire first bit. So Patreon is a fantastic tool for allowing teams like the Libretro team, and I would be remiss not to mention our Patreon campaign, to be able to go above and beyond to create more and more that they normally wouldn't be able to do, either because of time or money. If you're wanting to help groups or people out, then consider supporting Patreon campaigns, as they do a marvelous job at it. The Libretro Patreon will be in the links below. A few months ago, actually almost a year ago now, I talked about the Sony PlayStation at length, and the good work that Ben Heck was doing to restore this machine. Well, recently, another video in the Sony PlayStation saga has gone up, and Ben Heck has gotten it to work. He was able to repair the board and figure out enough on how it works to be able to get music to play first out of the CD drive, and then later 2 games to boot. The 2 games were Super Boss Gaiden and Magic Floor. Super Boss Gaiden booted to a black screen, and then later off camera, an error message. Magic Floor booted, as it's a more simple game, but it was extremely glitchy. You have to remember that these 2 games were developed for an emulator first, not the hardware. The good news is that Ben's findings will allow the software creators to go back to their emulator, make adjustments to the code that more closely match the real hardware, and future Nintendo PlayStation homebrew games will be much more accurate. Remember, the emulator came out with specs that were not even known, so it was a long shot that these games would work on real hardware right away, especially because nobody knew what the damn thing was. But now it's more than possible. Granted, unless someone recreates the hardware to sell nowadays, no one's going to be playing these on real hardware anyways. However, the more accurate this emulator though, the better it is for our community and giving us that more authentic feel. So thank you very much, Ben, for getting this to work, and for all the software developers related to this, keep on kicking ass. Metroidvania is its own genre, it's here to stay, and a game that personifies that genre in a much more shocking way than it looks like from the outside is called Nightkeep. Nightkeep is a Metroidvania set in a medieval fantasy world, accompanied by an original story. Much like Symphony of the Night and later Castlevania games of that genre, you fight enemies to earn experience, while you platform and traverse the sprawling 2D world filled with enemies, power-ups, and treasure. You play as Arietta, a huntress who has her own approach to everything. The story opens up with Arietta arriving in a faraway village called Nightkeep. The dev admits that the story beats are still in an early state, and they don't really want to spoil it all quite yet. Nightkeep is being developed by a group called Pixel ABCD and has already been approved on Steam Greenlight. If you'd like to read up more on this game from the developer themselves, then head on over to the Greenlight page in the description below and keep an eye out on this game. I think it looks really fantastic. Another game that looks really fantastic. After 12 long years, the ultimate Sonic fan game is finally here. Sonic Time Twisted. Sonic Time Twisted is a fan game in the style of the older 2D Sonic titles that was released for Windows. And guess what the best thing about this is? Either Sega doesn't care, or they're actively okay with this game existing, because it hasn't been pulled down, and I feel comfortable directly linking to this game in the description. I mean, hell, this game has been developed for the last 12 years. They clearly know about this game, so they either like it a lot or just turned a blind eye to it. Hello, Nintendo and Breath of the NES. The game is all original, except for the concept and characters. The plot, soundtrack, and design is all custom made though. The game takes inspiration from all of the 2D Sonic titles, but something that's probably most on display here is the time travel mechanic from Sonic CD, which you would guess as the name implies. There are 28 acts to explore, and 8 original zones, with 10 bosses to fight. The physics are extremely close to the Genesis Sonic games, with 3 playable characters in Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. There are also 14 3D special stages that take inspiration from the various special stages across the series. The game is completely free, and the custom soundtrack is also available for free in MP3 and FLAC right now. So if you're curious about what this plays like and want some more 2D Sonic before Sonic Mania later this year, assuming it doesn't get delayed again, then check it out in the links below. This month in 1996, The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind was released by Bethesda for the North American PC market. The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind is an open-world fantasy action RPG developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. It is the third installment in the Elder Scrolls series of games, following The Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall and preceding The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. It was released in North America in 2002 for Microsoft Windows and Xbox. The main story takes place on Vardenfell, an island in the Dunmer province of Morrowind, which lies in the Empire of Tamriel and is far from the more civilized lands to the west and south that were typical in Daggerfall and Arena. The central quests concern the deity Dagoth-Ur, housed within the volcanic Red Mountain, who seeks to gain power and break Morrowind free from Imperial reign. Morrowind was designed with an open-ended, freeform style of gameplay in mind, with less of an emphasis on the game's main plot than its predecessors. This choice received mixed reviews by some members of the gaming press at the time, though such feelings were tempered by reviewers' appreciation of Morrowind's expansive and detailed game world. Despite that, Morrowind received both critical and commercial success, winning various awards including Game of the Year, as well as selling over 4 million sales worldwide by 2005. The game spawned 2 expansion packs, known as Tribunal and Blood Moon. Both were eventually repackaged into a full set entitled Morrowind Game of the Year Edition, which released in October of 2003. You can also buy the Game of the Year Edition on Steam and GOG. There's also an open source reimplementation of its engine currently being developed called OpenMW. Releasing on June 6, 2017, The Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind will utilize the height map of the original game and recreates iconic points of interest from the islands of Vardenfell in its MMO world as The Elder Scrolls Online's new expansion. If you are a patron that pledged to be a part of our Patreon campaign and are watching this early, then thank you very much. For those of you who pledged at the producer level role, your names are now on screen. If you are interested in seeing your name as a part of Retro Style Spotlight, the tutorials, and have it be inside of the Launchbox application, then head on over to our Patreon link in the description below. At just $2 a month, you can see content like RSS early, and at higher tiers, you start to unlock things like exclusive Discord server access, producer credits, and a personal hangout with the Launchbox team. Any dollar amount anyone pledges to our campaign is helping us create a better product, and we could not thank you enough. So that was Retro Style Spotlight for the week of May 2nd, 2017. All of the relevant links to everything you heard in this edition of RSS will be in the description below. Remember, you can sign up for a Launchbox forum account to interact with the community, moderators, and the Launchbox staff if you have any questions or would like to contribute to the project. If Launchbox has given you a beautiful library of games, then why not purchase a premium license of Launchbox for $20, which will get you big box and tons of premium-only features. If you enjoyed this episode of RSS, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to get notified of new videos that we make. Let us know what you think of RSS and any feedback you may have on it in the comments below. My name is Brad, the link to my channel is also below where I do lots of gaming content, and remember freaks and geeks to play more games, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day!